A few years ago, I released a number of pre-release builds of Uncharted Drake's Fortune. The oldest of those builds being a whole 6 months before the game released. In the time since then, I've realised that I didn't really do a very good job of demonstrating a lot of the differences in a single video. I made a few individual videos on the bigger things, but there are plenty of other differences that I never bothered to show off. Now I think is the right time to go back and show you just how different and significant this version of the game really is. I say significant because this internal build of Uncharted, compiled on the 14th of May 2007, was the version shown on stage by Naughty Dog's then co-president Evan Wells at Sony's Gamers Day event, held on the 17th of May 2007. The only surviving video of this that I could find may be in horrible quality, but it's still worth preserving, as it was the very first time that the public got to see real gameplay of Uncharted. Keep in mind, the E3 2006 demo showcased only early pre-rendered sequences, nothing anyone could actually play. This was the real game up and running in real time. People at the event weren't just stuck watching either, those who were there actually got to play the demo too. The demo itself begins in Chapter 4. Already you can spot a big difference. Elena has brown hair. This was her original hair colour before it was redesigned a few months later. Once we get into gameplay, you can see what the HUD used to look like. Quite different compared to the final game. Another difference is that ammo boxes were present throughout the level, usable by Nate to ensure that he didn't run out. There were 2 types of ammo box. One for secondary weapons, such as pistols, and one for primary weapons, such as assault rifles. These items were later scrapped entirely, instead replaced with different types of guns laying around that serve the same purpose. This version of the game also features an entirely scrapped mechanic: sprinting. It was meant to be taught to the player in Chapter 3, but we'll take a look at that level later on. By holding circle as you run forward, Nate would start to sprint. There is also a stamina mechanic, so you can't run forever, but once you do run out of stamina, you fully recover it almost instantly, so it's all a bit pointless. There's no real reason why you wouldn't just sprint everywhere. Saying that, however, I'm not entirely convinced it benefited the game very much, and is likely something you would completely forget about shortly after learning how to do it, which is probably why it was quietly removed before the game came out. Enemies used to have these arrows over their weapons once they dropped them. I guess it was to help spot them on the jungle floor, but it does take away from the game's more realistic visuals. In the final game they would instead make the guns glint, which was a more elegant solution. Your crosshair also used to turn red once aimed over an enemy. This was later removed as well. Combat feels pretty similar to the final game. Well, the shooting does. Melee is absolutely terrible. Seriously, I can't quite convey just how jank it is through the video. You have to play it for yourself to know just how shit this feels. The demo lets you play through the whole of Chapter 4, until you reach the wreck of Sully's plane. Once the cutscene ends, the demo is over, kicking you back to the main menu. Of course, if you dig a little deeper into the build, you'll find that there's actually a few more levels you can play through. If we skip past the plane wreck cutscene, we can keep playing all the way through the rest of Chapter 4. You can even get through Chapter 5 too. Although, once you reach the end of this chapter, things start to fall apart pretty badly. Some of the environment exists for Chapter 6, but you won't be able to progress any further. If we jump back a little bit earlier in the game, we can actually find Chapter 3 in there too. The whole U-boat level is there and can be played through, although it's missing the cutscenes, and it also falls apart at the end, as it's missing the level data for the temple. Even though most of these levels may look the same at first glance, there's still some visual differences when you compare it to the final game side by side. If we jump ahead much further into the game, a very rough version of the vault map from Chapter 16 exists as well, although there's nothing to interact with and no way to actually progress. I'll use this empty map to show off the next scrapped feature: spiders. Spiders were set to appear in Chapter 2, as seen in this concept art. Chapter 2 is missing from this build, but the spiders were just an idea that was never fully implemented, so we're not missing some big set piece or anything like that. The spider model is just a placeholder, reused from one of their earlier Jak and Daxter games, but the level of interaction here is promising, albeit not something they managed to get working quite right. This spider tech would later be resurrected and used for Uncharted 3. There is one last map left over, a playtest map. You might recognise this from some small glimpses shown in the behind the scenes videos. This area contains various shapes and surfaces to test player movement, and was a way for the developers to test gameplay mechanics before the rest of the game was built. That's the environments covered, but there's still plenty here that you haven't seen yet. Despite a limited arsenal of guns being available in the demo, we can spawn in some more using the debug menu. Most of these are unfinished, but some were far enough along to have their models completed. There's a couple different versions of Nathan Drake left over too. There's a version that looks nearly the same, except he's got a pendant instead of his ring. We can see this pendant in some even earlier images Naughty Dog released of the game that year. This pendant can be seen all the way back in his 2006 outfit as well. Considering how important Sir Francis Drake's ring is to the plot of the game, I don't know what they were planning before its inclusion. Maybe Sir Francis Drake was originally meant to pass down this rather goofy looking pendant instead of his ring? It seems unlikely. Speaking of Nate's early 2006 outfit, while that model is sadly not present in these files, there is a leftover remnant of it in the form of an extra leg holster. It's unusable, but still pretty cool. There is a number of other early and even unused models sitting in this build. There's far too many to show each and every one, but here's a few of them. And that's about it. Honestly, there's plenty more things I haven't mentioned in this video, but I just wanted to go over some of the bigger ones that people may not know about. There are other, later builds of this game too, those that have their own list of differences. Maybe I'll make a video on them at some point. Or maybe not. I don't know. It took me nearly 3 years to get around to making this one, and I'm pretty busy with the Uncharted 4 stuff currently as well. As I said, these builds have been released to the public for a while now, so feel free to look through them yourself if you want. Anyway, I'll go now. I hope you learned something new about this old game and found it at least somewhat interesting. I'll see you next time.